Hey guys, this is Jamie. Today I'm gonna talk about an issue which, well, I didn't give it too much thought before because when it comes to makeup, a lot of people kind of focus on different things and the aesthetic rather than how helpful it actually is. Specifically when it comes to people with different disabilities or different things which would make it harder than for the consumer that the makeup brands go for. So, if you want like a very good video about that and very detailed, um, I have a link in my description where a blind woman, Molly, apparently who is a rather big influencer. I feel really bad that I haven't heard about her, and basically she talks very in depth about what she would wish brands would do and which brands work better for blind people. And I found that topic really fascinating because I don't obviously have the experience of a blind person, but I do struggle sometimes when it comes to makeup because my hands shake a lot, and I've always wondered like where it comes from, and it's kind of a big genetic thing, and I tend to hide my hands sometimes even, or I gesticulate because I don't know, it makes me less anxious. So I'm just gonna quickly talk about myself, and then I'll. So it's not a disability per se, but obviously it is something which people struggle with, and I also have very very sweaty hands. Again, genetics. Thank you. So it took me, like, for instance, when it comes to like winged liner, I really um, struggle with it because at the end of the day, you have to like do it evenly. You have to like do a carbon copy of the one you did last time, and etc. 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 So at the end of the day, I really just don't like it because I feel like it's a lot of pressure. My hands can I can barely ever do like the real crisp one, and considering the fact that my eyes are different shapes and little tidbits here and there, it's I just don't feel like it's worth of me perfecting it when I can do other looks. So I kind of bent my way into doing makeup into not only the way I liked, but the way I would find more comfortable. And this is another reason why I felt really nervous about doing this video, was because uh, I still had to use makeup as a way to not put myself in danger. So, yeah, the past few years when I started transitioning and I didn't want my family to know, which ended up, well, as I expected, in certain members. Um, I had to like literally shave all my beard off. Then I would put an orange concealer on every part where my beard was. I would put a very, very strong foundation which would cover everything, which was Vichy Norma Blend. And ever since, I can't touch heavy foundations. Or I even struggle to even like shave my face because I have so much trauma from thinking that I would have to shave every day. So that's why I kind of keep my beard. And sometimes even when I want to shave, I get too nervous about that. So I would do that, the Vichy Normaderm, and then I'd go over with a powder, whether it was a Kiko plain pressed one, and then I moved to a MAC one, and also sometimes I would use the NYX Bare Skin Tinted Primer on top of that. So basically, I would use as much layers as possible, and I would always get told, like, why do you use so much makeup? Uh, when people wouldn't realize that I was just covering my hairs. And it did really bother me a lot, so that's why I keep growing my facial hair. and I still really struggle. Like, I can't remember last time I actually held a razor and did it myself. By the end of it, I was just like not having it. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's really weird that makeup can be used also as a way to protect yourself. And in general, makeup is a very important form of expression, which should be accessible to anyone, really. So that's why the topic really interested me, and it also made me think about my hand shaking, because uh, there were times when I was heavily abused, and I would literally just like sit at the table with my sister and her husband, and my whole body would start shaking. And I remember even last time I was there. Um, Usually, like, people put uh, sugar in the tea for me because I actually can't hold a teaspoon with sugar. Like, it always spills. And it's a small gesture which people do for me because I get really nervous and I always spill. I don't know whether it would help if the spoon would be heavier or not, but regardless, people usually do that for me because, well, no one really wants a mess on the table. And always in her house, uh, like, she would always have like this sugar pot, and it would always be like, you have to ask someone to pass it to you, and then you have to put it in yourself. And obviously, um, I was already nervous because I was sitting with my abusers, and I remember her kids spoke up, asking like, why are my hands shaking? And they were just like, well, some people hands shake, and it's like, okay, yeah, of course. But it was really due to the anxiety and me like completely concealing my face. And I remember that I got so nervous that I was actually like holding my hands with my other hand. And it was also a thing which like my mother always said that like it's a bad thing and etc. So she would like give exercises to stop it and stuff like that. But yeah, kind of my body shaking due to anxiety is something I struggled with a lot. And with medication these days, sometimes I have to understand that my shaking will decrease, but my mood will increase. So I kind of forget about my shaking and prefer to fight my depression than with my hands shaking. So yeah, and that kind of made me think a lot about makeup. Like, when it comes to different disabilities, I do think that obviously Molly talks much better about when it comes to blind people and their makeup. But this came from me finding a topic on Reddit where people were asking like, what would they want from their perspective to change? And I really wanted to highlight the whole idea that luxury means heavy. And very often, like, even when I have a cartoon palette and while I'm doing my eye looks and I hold it, I just, like, by the end of it, I can't feel my hand. Like, I always have to prop it, and even then my hands get really tired and I have to, like, stop and take a break. And I always have to make sure that my hands are positioned, that if I'm doing really refined stuff, that I do enough breaks and stuff like that. And recently I've been really finding different techniques which are messy, which would work for me, because I just don't want to rely on my hands that much, you know? So that was like my perspective, and I really do think that we should put a lot more effort into makeup being accessible for a lot of people. Because at the end of it, makeup still kind of falls into the idea of how beauty should be, and people still kind of advocate that, obviously. I mean, there's no right way to wear makeup, but yet people still kind of dig others for it. So, even when they get past all that, we really need to do the basic, which is putting braille or other forms of identification when it comes to makeup. And I also wanted to note that Molly brought up Too Faced, and it is indeed a makeup brand which you always can. You have like a multiple experience, like with the smell, texture, and other things, as well as Tarte, which you mentioned. Like, I never liked Tarte, but now I feel like, okay, I feel really bad that I shamed them for their color stories, but now I really get it. That it's a good idea to, have it in a certain structure. And as much as I enjoy like big palettes, I do understand the need for smaller palettes. And we really need to think about these things. So instead of like, I don't know, putting up another foundation which is going to be the same as the Floss 30, I really hope someone steps up and actually does braille included or any identification mark. Like, even from the top of my head, like, seriously, like, this is a Kat Von D, well, back when she was there and being an anti-vax and everything. Like, it still has, like, you can see the letters, not see, I mean, you can feel them literally because they pop up. And these days, brands kind of try to make the palettes, you can't feel shit. So, unless it's like a specific shape. So, yeah. And also, when it comes to lipsticks, I mean, as much as I love like the MAC Bullet ones, and I do have like this sort of love hate because I really like them, but they're expensive, and I literally get them like as a treat. And currently, I only have like two of them. Like, I mean, the classic Bullet ones. So, like, they are completely like you have to like literally open it or look at the shade and remember what shade it is. So yeah, I did notice the Maybelline that they show the color and the texture for their color sensational. I think is the line. Yeah. Also, another one, I guess, by smell, which you can identify, is the Rimmel Kate Moss line. But then they kind of stopped doing as many Kate Moss ones, and then they became the general lipstick. So yeah, those kind of have a sense. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, I was never really that much against scent because I still feel like it's one of the experiences. And I also wanted to point out that even when the conversation about disabled people or people who lose sight, motion, anything comes into the topic, it kind of suddenly dies. Like, I remember a few years back, there was this husband of a woman who was losing sight, and they got invited to a lot of like workshops, which was really, really sweet. I even remember that Mario called them over, and the husband basically wanted to learn how to do makeup for his wife so that when she wouldn't be able to see, he would still do it for her and she would know that, well, she looks good. And which was really sweet, and it kind of went everywhere, and then it just vanished. So I really hope that this time, if we talk about it enough, it will be, raised because at the end of the day, makeup shouldn't come to those who can afford it. Makeup should really be accessible. And sure, like even my nags about certain brands not being in Europe, and I do get really pissed off at that. It's literally because I just want to have a variety. Like, I don't want to spend like over $200 for something which costs peanuts in the US, you know? So there's also like a lot of that as well. So I don't know what's gonna happen to the beauty industry because it's still very like centralized on how you should look, how you should do this, how you should do that. And that shouldn't be the case. We really need to go back to the fact that however you wear makeup is acceptable. And I don't exactly like Patrick's One Size brand, because I just don't find that interesting to myself. But the whole idea that one size fits all is was a good way to go, you know? And I really wish more people understood that you can wear makeup however you want and you should never like feel pressured into doing a certain technique because you can't, regardless of what the reason is, or it's lack of practice to, like, I don't know, my shaking hands, and yeah, I just like makeup was a way for me to accept myself and express myself. And even though like I had completely shaking hands and I really struggled with it in the beginning, I was allergic to some things. I still found ways around it, but for some reason it isn't that easy. For some people it isn't that easy to do that. And there's a lot of society pressure as well when it comes to how you should do your makeup and whether you should. And in general, I've been kind of depressed with everything, to be honest. So I kind of want to make sure that makeup stays a safe space for everyone. And I understand that it's not, but I really want to keep it as something like sacred and very open to everyone. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I believe I'll do like a more in-depth one when it comes to beauty products, and I'll try to single out which work for me, which I think could improve, and etc. because I've got quite a lot of things. So yeah. Thank you for watching this. Please check out Molly's video. Please just do something. Get this out, okay? It doesn't have to be my video. It can be Molly's. It could be anyone's. I just really want the makeup world to be more accepting. Thank you.